All right, welcome everybody to the PennWest University live stream. Tonight we are presenting the final virtual panel for our Black History Month celebration. My name is Chris LaFury. I'm from the Office of Communications. Just going to do a quick introduction and turn it over to Rogers Legand. Today's presentation is called Can You See Me? Voices and Experiences of PennWest African American Students. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Rogers. Thank you very much everybody for joining us today.
Thank you, Chris. I'm Rogers Legand. I am the Assistant Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Student Support in the PennWest DEI Division. We have a wonderful panel of students who will discuss challenges and opportunities regarding their educational experiences and actions that enhance and support students who are Black, Indigenous, and/or hold marginalized identities. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the panelists, as well as our esteemed host, our esteemed moderator. So first, Savannah L. Dorsey holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a certificate in Spanish for law enforcement at PennWest, California, where she is also pursuing a master's degree in criminal justice and criminology. Beyond the classroom, this Pittsburgh native serves as a presidential leadership intern, a member of the board of directors of Student Association Incorporated, the secretary of California's African American Alumni Society, a graduate advisor to the Black Student Union, and she's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Savannah. Second, we have Nia Latham, a senior political science and sociology major at PennWest Clarion. She is a strong advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and an active member of the Clarion community. Latham is also the president of the Black Student Union. She's a DEI ambassador and a community assistant. She is also an aspiring attorney who is studying for the law school admissions test. Good luck, Nia. And last, but certainly not the least, Jada Smith, who is pursuing a master's in clinical mental health counseling at PennWest Clarion. She is the CEO and founder of Scholars with Athletic Goals for Girls, AKA SWAG, an organization that provides scholarship to young women in sports and the arts. This Philadelphia native hopes to own her own practice, which will focus on trauma and breaking the stigma around mental health in the African American community. She is also very active within the campus community. She's the captain of Clarion's women's basketball team, a presidential leadership intern. She has also participated in the President's Leadership Academy, Brothers and Sisters in Christ, the Student Athletic Advisory Committee, and the Black Student Union. And of course, our moderator, who's also in the PennWest DEI division, Shalita Camarda Webb, who is the Assistant Vice President for Assessment and External Relations and the Chief Diversity Officer at PennWest, California. And I'll now hand it over to Shalita.
Thank you, Raj, and thank you for that introduction. Welcome everyone, and welcome to our esteemed panelists and everyone's here who is going to be part of our discussion. As Raj mentioned, our discussion highlights the panelists' journey through their higher education experience at PennWest, Clarion, Edinburgh, and California, respectfully. And they're just going to talk about the challenges and the opportunities and sort of share their experiences and hope give us some words wisdom to perhaps their folks coming after them. So the first question, I will start with Nia, just because she's first on my screen. Nia, can you tell us, do you or have you ever felt the need to prove yourself in the context of, I guess, of as an African American and female student at a predominantly white institution?
I think that often when I hear questions like this, I think of how I was taught when I was younger that sometimes African Americans cannot be mediocre. And unfortunately, it kind of stuck with me to where I have to exceed at everything. And I'm one of those people, if I fail, it really, really bothers me. And I had to learn how to get out of that and to learn that sometimes your failures help you learn lessons from them and become better later. But I think I do have a little small issue with thinking that I have to prove myself in every aspect. And I always have to go above and beyond in everything to make sure that I'm not mediocre. Because unfortunately, sometimes we do have to make decisions about what we will exert a lot of energy into and what we can't because we're just exhausted. And I think a part of being a student at a PWI is understanding that you are enough. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Jada, what about you? Do you feel like, during your experience at your PennWest Clarion, that you've had to prove yourself?
Yes, I felt like I had to prove myself. I would go off of what Nia said, just kind of like I never wanted to be mediocre. Growing up, that was like the standard. And when I think of this proving myself, I even think about the way that I dress before I even let somebody even hear me speak. The way that I dress, I feel like I have to prove allow you to even understand or to accept what I have to say without judgment. You know, if you carry yourself right, usually people want to hear from you. So that was like the first thing. And then I feel like I have to prove that I'm educated and that I'm respectful, but also it create like it just for me, I feel like I have to think before I do, before I say, before I react. And all the time, I'm proving who I am, even though I'm comfortable with myself. I feel like you have to present yourself in that manner, no matter what.
And it sounds like, if I may add on to the question, that though for both you and Nia, those are both internal and perhaps even a projected external expectation. So it's something that, you're placing upon yourself, but maybe you feel that, I don't know, society is that's the expectation as well.
Yes, I think that society has placed it on us. And that's why our parents teach us these things before we even step out, because they know what is to be expected and how we're going to be viewed before we even open our mouth. That's why the way you look is important. And then when you speak, to make sure you are speaking in an educated manner so that you don't get judged and that they will listen to what you have to say.
Thank you. And it sounds like, based on the bios that Raj opened with, that all of you have, done your due diligence with, excelling and, making yourself a part of the fabric of your campus community. So you've gone way above and beyond in that. And Savannah, can you tell me, what do you believe the importance of your current position and wanting to continue as a student leader at a PWI?
Ultimately, I think for me personally, to show that it is possible and attainable, sharing my story on how I am where I am and bringing the next student up with me, but also just because I genuinely love being in these positions. I love sharing my ideas, influencing changes at the university, bringing up my peers, allowing them to have that same opportunity, knowing that it is there, and allowing my voice to be heard. When something is right, I have the ability to speak on that. And when something is wrong, I have the opportunity to reach out to someone higher up in the university and just be like, look, students and myself do not believe this is true or what is going on, but I have the opportunity to address that ultimately. So in rooms where our perspective may never be heard because of much involvement from other students who are white, walking into that setting, addressing the differences of perspective and what's happening in our world is my major influence.
Thank you. So it sounds like being a leader has, been, you position yourself to be at the table and lend your voice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nia, what about you? Not only obviously sounds like you are a student ambassador at multi spaces on campus. That you have the residence halls, right? You are a member of Building Bridges. You have a leadership role in the BSU. You're touching different points, different spaces in the university. Tell me about the importance of that for you and in those spaces.
I always like to discuss it in reference to the BSU because I've been the president of the BSU for approximately 2 years, and I've been on the board of the Black Student Union here at Clarion for 3. And one thing that I always say is that in my role as the president here at Clarion, I often have these discussions with students about, what do we think about these minority-based or Black organizations and what do they mean to us? Why do you want to, anytime someone joins the Black Student Union board, we ask them, why do you want to join? And typically they have the same couple of answers, and that's okay, but we want to find people that understand that for Black people, for Black students on Clarion's campus, the BSU is an essential part of campus life. It provides a safe place for discussing discrepancies and interacting with students of similar backgrounds. And I think that sometimes when I'm thinking of how important it is to sustain organizations such as the Black Student Union, minority-based organizations, are we trying our best to make sure that they are sustained and that they will run after I leave or so-and-so leaves or whoever leaves? Because I've had that that thought in the back of my mind that sometimes these organizations aren't deemed important, or maybe they're not important in light of where we are at in society now. And I don't want to look back 10, 20 years from now and be, kind of asking whatever happened to that organization and be told, well, it wasn't necessary anymore. We didn't have anyone to run it. So I think it's so important to me to be a part of these positions, especially with the Black Student Union. I'm a part of so many things, but my highest leadership role is being a part of this group. And it's one of the most major groups on campus, and there's good reason for it. And I think being a leader on campus definitely affords you to be in spaces to talk about these things exactly, making sure that minority-based organizations such as the Black Student Union excel and are sustained even when I leave.
For part of your legacy, right? And ensuring that legacy continues, for the students currently behind you and the students left, still remaining to come. Thank you. And Jada, could you sort of say more about, your leadership roles and why they're more than just a resume builder? I mean, obviously it assists with your resume, right? It gives you sort of practical experience, in spaces, where you're also, learning academically. So it allows you to shine in both lights, right? But can you say more about why leadership roles on the campus, especially for students from minoritized communities, why that's important, you believe?
I think it's important because you can inspire the next person. If you're in the position, you can say to the next person, if I can do it, so can you. And you can even be better than what I'm doing. So for me, I think just the inspiration to other people, but also being a representation, that is something that's so important, because sometimes you might not see someone that looks like you in leadership roles at other universities, especially at a PWI. So if I could be the African American that's in the role, I can represent you. I can speak on your behalf in those positions when I can have conversations with other people. And like I said, I think the true value is to be able to inspire, because we want more people like myself to be in those roles and to be able to be leaders. So
Thank you. Savannah, what do you believe the true value is, or why there's true value in ensuring that students are seen, and in particular students from minoritized groups? What's the importance of them being seen and feeling seen on campus?
Personally, I feel like, especially like since we're in college, there are so many different groups of people, minorities, and with like clubs and organizations where students have the opportunity to find themselves and become themselves. When the university allows for students to project that and are put on a platform where it's not like, oh, this is this club and we're shying them away from whatever's going on, but allowing them to actually be who they are in a community of people from different backgrounds and from different worlds. Just having that shows that moving forward in the real world, once we leave college, that we're able to actually like coexist and be who we are. So at the hands of the university allows us to keep moving forward from there.
Thank you. Jada, same question. What do you believe that the true value is of being seen as a student, and especially students from minoritized communities?
I think the true value of being seen, I think being seen, but also being heard. That is the two connections that I feel like is extremely important to put together. But I feel seen because I'm going to make my presence known. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to raise my hand in classrooms. I'm going to ask another question or email certain people that I need to be involved with. And I think that that's important for anyone listening, is like put yourself out there for any opportunity. But being heard, I think that connection to it is ever since I have come to PennWest Clarion or Clarion University, when I decided to choose here, I always felt like I was supported. I felt like I was supported, and I felt like they valued me before I even stepped on campus to decide to come here. And I think that's a beauty of it. That's the reason why I chose this school, is because I felt seen and heard. And I felt like I was going to be supported as a person, but also as a student to become the best version of myself. So I think the university is doing a great job at ensuring me that I'm being valued and seen and heard.
And I guess an add-on question would be, you had mentioned being and feeling seen and heard, as you entered into the university space. Do you think that sort of enabled you to get involved and to take on roles in student organizations, but you also student athletes, to be seen and feel seen, and and to be a leader?
Yes, I think that because I felt comfortable before I even decided to, completely say yes and do the whole application and everything. Once I decided to step on campus, and my story is a little bit unique because we were here and then we had COVID. So I haven't, being a transfer to this university as well, I haven't even been on campus that long, but the people around me, once they found out anything that I was doing, or they felt like I was going to be a great fit, they just told me about it. And that's where that being seen, like they felt like, okay, I know this girl, she might be good for this. Even if I felt like a lot of the adults here at the university in those, major leadership positions as well, they helped me step out my comfort zone. They put me in places that I didn't even know that I was going to be able to to bloom into. So yes, it definitely had made me comfortable to voice anything that I wanted, or to just go try something because I knew they had my best interests.
Thank you. And that's a good segue in conversation and into the next question, which sort of mirrors that conversation. And I will start with Nia. Nia, how do you believe that the university, so PennWest University, right, so across the 3 campuses, and obviously your individual experience wherever you spent most of your time, but how do you feel that the university supports students from minoritized communities? And what does that support look like, in your opinion?
I'm going to speak from personal experience, because I think that my experience at Clarion, especially when I first got here, was exceptional. I don't know if you guys know any of these people, but Jared Boxley, Matthew, a couple of other people, Raj, of course, Dr. Krosky, they all were really helpful in, guiding me in my journey of becoming an adult. Because that's essentially what's happening when you get to college. Your parents drop you off and you have to start making decisions for yourself, and it can be hard. And I found that many of the staff at Clarion, not just them, but other people as well, were there to help me, when I needed it, were there to guide me when I was lost, and were there to congratulate me when I succeeded. And that is really, really important. You're going to go through a lot of phases while you're here in college. And one of them is going to be that you're going to be lost and you're going to need help. But it's also important to congratulate people when they do succeed. And once I wasn't lost and I didn't need help anymore, I got a lot of congratulations. And I thought to myself, it's so important to have those type of people around you when you don't have your family near you and when you're so young and you're trying to journey into your adulthood. And one thing I will say about being in college, maybe in general, but specifically for Clarion, is that you're afforded a lot of opportunities. I have to say that the biggest thing that I tell people all the time is network. They're like, well, I don't know how to, or I don't know anyone. And I'm like, you're on a college campus. You need to start talking to people. You need to start asking questions, because one thing that I discussed with the chancellor when he came to Clarion to talk to the faculty and staff was that there's importance in connectors. Every person that you talk to might not have the answer, but they might have the connection that does. And it's important to be able to know who those people are and to establish a rapport with them, because oftentimes you are going to need them. And I decided to do that. And these people came to me and I came to them and they helped me. And even when they said, I don't know anything about that, they said, but you know what? Let me send you email this person. Let me make sure I contact this person. And they helped me. And I think that is so important, especially with underrepresented students, because we often don't know where to go. We often don't think there are any resources. We think we have to do it all alone and be, this independent person that just figures it out. And that's not the case. And Clarion definitely showed that. You can walk into Dr. Koski's office, Raj, Jared, and ask them questions and they will help you. And it definitely stems from networking and connecting.
Thank you, Nia. It's sort of, the message I'm getting from that is find your person and or your people, right? And then, your people will be the conduit to other people, and therein lies, the community and the relationship students and, and all stakeholders on campus need to sort of to thrive, but it's definitely our students and helping them lift them up and be successful. So thank you. Savannah, a similar question, tell me what your thoughts are about how the university supports minoritized students.
So I just want to say, hearing from you, Nia, my experience at Cal U was kind of similar. I remember as a freshman, there was a club and org fair we had, and I was overwhelmed by the amount of club and orgs, especially multicultural orgs, and this is pre-COVID. So you had the Black Student Union, the Hispanic Student Association, the African American, the HSA, all of those clubs in one. And you're entering a world coming from high school, and you're with these other people that you are trying to coexist with in a university where some people were like, I've never even met a Black person before. And just learning from that and moving forward, I think was ultimately the biggest factor for me staying at Cal U. You have at Cal U, we have the Jenny A. Carter Multicultural Office, the center. So just being in there, we're able to study, do homework, meetings, stuff like that. The scholarship opportunities, most importantly, I had no idea of it until my freshman year. And they're like, well, donate for the Jenny A. Carter Scholarship Opportunity. I'm like, what is that? And then later on, I realized I was awarded the scholarship. So I think overall, in finding my people, as a freshman, I was introduced to you, Ms. Shalita, and that from there, I think took off, and it segued me to numerous opportunities of having my name in that door and just networking, knowing these people and building upon that. So I think, if anything, the support, that is what I'm most thankful for. And I think that's what helped me and guided me through my college experience at California.
Thank you, Savannah. And sort of a similar situation, and you getting in that role and finding your people has all of you actually has led to you helping your colleagues after you, right? As an advisor to BSU, and keeping your connections, with AKA, so what was helpful and helped you along, you're able to give that back now, which I'm sure is very rewarding in many different ways. The next question, Jada, what are some advantages do you think that, that minorities have, students from minoritized communities have being at our predominantly white institutions?
I think some advantages that minorities have at a PWI is it gives a chance to speak, like you're going to share a different part of the story that they're not used to. And especially being a rural area, there's plenty of conversations and dialogues that you can create or that somebody can ask you to have a good, healthy conversation. And I think that that's a beauty because we need to learn from each other so that we can create this world to be a better nation. But I think the one thing that I believe is my biggest advantage right now, currently into mental health field, is that I am African American in this rural area where there are only a selective amount of African Americans who might even receive mental health, and I give them a chance to meet someone that looks like them in this area. And that is something that is so powerful because not only do they not really see someone, but now their counselor, the therapist, it looks like them. So now we can really get to the root of the problem because they feel more comfortable. I think that is like the biggest blessing and the biggest impact that I can have in this area. So that's one of my biggest advantages that I would say personally being in this field, but also just being a student. I'm granted that opportunity because of that. So.
Thank you. It's sort of, and it sounds like, based on your major and now your internship, you are able to reach outside of the campus community into the greater community and leave your mark and make a difference, and how valuable that is, not only for the university, but for the local community. So thank you. Nia, what about you? What do you think the advantages are for minority students on our rural campuses?
I thought about it, and at first I thought, should the question be disadvantages? But then I thought about it and I said, I think that there are some portions of the campus. I always say the campus is so open. It's one of the places where I feel comfortable. I've never had any issues directly on campus or enjoying my time on campus. I will say the community is a little bit different. But one thing that I have learned by being here is that the community allows me to create new experiences. It helps me understand different perspectives and learn to navigate challenging obstacles associated with residing in a predominantly white rural area. Before I moved here, I was in a city and there were a lot of diverse people and it was fun and it seemed to kind of be more me. And when I got here, I was a little bit confused because I was like, this isn't how I normally operate. But I think those are some of the things that I learned coming here is that sometimes you are going to be in environments that aren't really conducive to the type of person that you are, what you experienced previously, but you have to adapt. And I know that the community often has done things for the university and for the students of the university. And I'm also grateful for that because there are some occasions where you see that that's not the case. So I think there are a lot of advantages of being in this community for minorities. You just have to look at it in a different way, but the campus itself is open and I've never had any issues on campus. I think there are a lot of advantages that come with being on this campus and enjoying all the amenities that come with it.
Thank you. I can imagine, I often say when we have these conversations and dialogues, whether it's building bridges or, a general conversation or an organic conversation around our, campuses and very, very rural communities, that, we all come from where we come from, right? And based on that, what you know. And especially if you come to a campus community where you are not a part of the majority, the opportunity that is there, if we might consider the opportunity that might be there to bring a greater understanding to folks who, don't, or who aren't like us, or don't come from where we come from. And that's everybody, right? Because we all come from where we come from and know what we know. Even if we look alike, or even if the majority looks alike, they might not necessarily come from the same space and have the same experience. And that's often not a thing that we remember when we all come here, and especially if we look different. Savannah, tell us what figure, I'm going to switch it up a bit, in Black history do you look up to the most and why?
I always say whenever I get questions about like who's the most or anything like that, I can never just pick one person. I feel like there is always numerous people. Stacey Abrams, Roxanne Gay, Ethel Hedgeman Lau, some of many women in Black history. I always contribute my influence to them just because in a world where it is so dominated by men and women can often be overlooked, I hope to have that same influence down the line in history, and just knowing that other women in such areas of my own interest, that where the bar is set, I could also attain that, and I could share that same influence to younger kids or anyone later down the line in any generation.
Thank you. Jada, what about you? What figure or figures in Black history that that you might admire the most, and that inspire you?
The person who inspires me the most from Black history is Maya Angelou. Like anybody who knows me, that's my girl. But my quote that I live by, I'm counting on you, counting on me. That's from Maya Angelou. And I did a monologue on her and I fell in love with her even more because I had to, step in her shoes and speak like her and say her whole story. It was a great experience in high school and I loved every bit of it. And I think I just fell in love with her wisdom, her knowledge. Whenever I go to schools, I do an I am workshop and I first say to them, like, I am phenomenal. And then I read to them, phenomenal woman. And I just think that that's so powerful. I go into look in the mirror and start my day. I'm like, I am a woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. And that, like, just the way it just goes, it's something about it that makes you feel great about yourself. And I think it's so phenomenal that she used her words to make such a big impact, to be an activist. And it allows me to know that there is value in sharing your story, in writing, in words, and it creates an art form that many people can be touched by.
Thank you. Nia, what about you? Who inspires you? We've heard from some biggies from both Savannah and Jada.
Actually, it is very recent, but Ketanji Brown Jackson, she was just appointed the first Black woman appointed to the Supreme Court. You probably think, well, why would you pick her? But I want to become a lawyer one day. And although she is a judge, she went to Harvard and she has, faced a lot of obstacles like many Black women do. And I have researched her. I've been following her ever since I found out about her. And she just seems, like Jada said, phenomenal. And that's something that I resonate with because I want to be a part of the legal profession. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be engaged in law. And sometimes, most of the time, you don't see a lot of Black lawyers, let alone Black women as lawyers. And for her to be on the Supreme Court that's amazing to say the least. So she has been one of the people that has guided me throughout my time here at Clarion. And she's also helped me kind of figure out what I want to do as far as law. And I think that's just so important because, like they said, there's so many. But outside of Black history, my mom is a part of Black history. And I want to say that my mom has inspired me to do many of things. If I had to say a figure, she isn't recognized, but my mother has really, really shown me what it is to be a woman and to be phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Switching it back and talking a little bit about some of your campus journey. We haven't really talked about, we've talked a lot and focused a lot of the out of class experiences, but can you speak to a little bit about any type of adversity that you faced in the classroom setting? And I'll start with you, Jada.
Yes, I have faced adversity in the classroom, especially in my master's program. I feel that's where I realize it the most. I'm one of the youngest in the program. I am the only African American female in the program, at least at PennWest Clarion. We just did a merge, so it's a little bit different, but I I, I haven't seen myself yet. Let's just say that. Um, I think I have encountered my own imposter syndrome throughout that time because we have like a virtual class, and usually your master's program it's online, so you don't really see your classmates, but throughout the summer we do a virtual class and you see all your classmates, and that's where it's really prevalent for me because I see that I am the youngest, that I am the only African American. And there's certain things they'll ask you certain questions, and in those moments, back to what we started with, proving myself, I feel like I encounter, but also just it makes you question sometimes your own knowledge and ability because I am young and I will be very vulnerable with this conversation. In those moments, I have to write down to myself, just because you're the only does not mean you are not supposed to be in this room. I say you got this, believe in yourself. And in those moments, I'm always able to regroup and realize that I'm in this field for a reason. There's only 2 to 4% African Americans who are social workers, psychiatrists, and psychologists. So I'm here to make a difference. That is the reason maybe that some people stopped, because there is not many people in that classroom, for example. So I know to press forward. I know to believe in myself, and my family is always there in support of me to continue to push on. So I think in the classroom, it definitely challenges me, but it keeps me going at the same time. It's like you have to just regroup, and back to the theme of Black History Month of Black resistance, just to tie into that, the resistance to keep pushing forward despite the things that you encounter. So, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. It's sort of like, the takeaway maybe, or the takeaway from me is what you said is sort of like, you reach inside yourself and you sort of claim who you are and why you're there and perhaps what even led you there, and know that you are worthy of being there, and moving forward. What about you, Nia? You want to talk about any adversity you faced in the classroom? You're ending your career, you're a senior, right? Graduating this spring.
Yes.
So you want to tell us a little bit about any adversity you faced in the classroom?
Being a political science major, we obviously talk about politics, and when you talk about politics, you can't forget race. It just kind of goes hand in hand. And oftentimes when you're in these rooms, it's a little bit uncomfortable at times because you hear opinions that stem from racism and prejudice and hate. And it's even harder to have a conversation so that you can help to eliminate some of those stereotypes that are associated with your race so that you don't become one. Because oftentimes you will get upset, you will get irritated that people really do think and say things like that. And then you'll have the stereotype stamped on you that you're an angry Black woman. And you're just proving the points time and time again. And so one of the things that I've noticed is that when I'm facing adversity in the classroom, I often try to make it a point that I understand all perspectives. And that's why it's so important to be a part of building bridges and to go to sessions and to understand what it is that we do. One of the most important and vital things that I do on campus is probably building bridges, because I learned there that it's okay to accept certain things, even if you don't agree with them. People come from different backgrounds, different perspectives, and you have to understand that your environment influences how you think about things. And so oftentimes when I'm sitting in these classrooms and I'm hearing these things, they do make me upset because they're false, they're rooted in racism and stereotypical. But I have to understand that where you come from really influenced your nature, the type of person you are, who you are going to become later in the future. And I think it's important because when you enter politics, some of the politicians who enter this realm and have those thoughts are deciding laws and initiatives, and people don't even realize it. The same people that had these thoughts and feelings about certain races are at the House or at the Senate and are making laws and decisions about your well-being. And that's why it's so important to eliminate some of those stereotypes and help other people understand that you may have heard that somewhere else, but it's not true. So that if you do become a politician one day, you're not making laws and decisions based on bias and hurting people.
Thank you. It's sort of like your presence and using your position, you know, as a student, right, as even as a prominent student leader to dispel the myth, and you know, and hopefully help other folks relearn maybe things that they, you know, didn't get the first time around.
Right.
Thank you. So when you think about your legacies at PennWest, first I want to ask, what do you think one of your greatest lessons are from your entire, you know, university experience, being a, you know, from a minoritized student, community, and your experience at a PWI? What's the greatest lessons you learned? And I will start with you, Savannah.
I think for me, at one point, there was a point in time, I think, especially after COVID, after our time was lost and many of our involvement, we didn't have those opportunities anymore. I felt the need that I had to keep up with everything. I wanted to take every position. I wanted my name to be back in every door and do everything to prove that I was this type of student leader. I was this type of student, and overall just to prove to myself and to prove to those also that didn't think it was possible. Like, oh, there's no way you could do this and the third. But now knowing that I didn't have to do that, I didn't have to accept everything, because eventually you get burnt out, especially as student leaders. I know we heavily talk about, we have this on our schedule, this, that, and the third, but it's like, when do we have time for ourselves? And because self-care is the most important. And we're students, athletes, we have lives at home, we work, and numerous other things going on. And taking everything just because of a point to prove isn't always the best and is not healthy whatsoever. So me taking time now, just looking back, like, is this something genuinely I could put my time into? Is this something I genuinely want to do? And is this, am I doing it for the betterment of myself and for the community? Or is it just for your name to be on a piece of paper or your name to be on a website? Even though I don't think I ever really looked at it that way, it was just more so me proving to myself, like, you did it. It could be done. Like, you are better than whatever anyone thought you could be, or whatever it was along those lines. But a lesson, just don't overdo it. Don't do too much, especially as a student leader. And I feel like once you're in these positions, we just feel the need, oh, I already did this, I could do this, I could help this person. And it becomes a lot and it's a whirlwind. And sometimes you can't manage that balance between schoolwork and the extracurriculars and your accolades.
Thank you. Jada, what about you? What do you think your greatest lesson is through your experience? And I know you said you transferred in during COVID, so the sort of, like, you know, Savannah mentioned, it was sort of a hybrid experience, right? Which made it unique anyhow. So what do you think your greatest lesson is as a, you know, a Black woman at a PWI?
I think that's a great question, but
Mhm.
I will say my greatest lesson, just being a young lady, African American here in this world at this university, I think I'm going to bring God into this. But what God has for you is going to be for you. You know, you can try to control it. You can try to think, I'm trying to do this, I want to do that. And God will open whatever door is meant for you. And for me, that's one of the greatest lessons that I've learned, because I wasn't one of those people, I didn't know when I came here. I didn't know all the opportunities. So I just, I love the school, thought it was good for me. Great time to play, great area to play basketball as well, great conference. I didn't know that it was going to open all these doors that it has opened. So for me, I feel like I feel like it's God's, like I'm just a testimony of God's work. So what God has for me, what God has for you will be, you don't have to stress it. You don't have to worry. He's going to open the door that you were meant to walk through. He's going to put your name at the table that it is meant to be. And for me, I'm just always, I'm grateful of that. And like I said that previously, back to my main point, the people that have these leadership roles already, they seen something in me that maybe I didn't even see it myself at that time. And that's why whatever the God blessed them with the thought to put me at that table or to open that door. And I'm glad that they followed it for me to be able to be this person that I am today.
Thank you. That's a very powerful message. And the one that while you don't have control, but you do have control, right? It's a yes and, right? Nia, what about you? What lesson, one of your greatest lessons in your experience and journey at PennWest Clarion?
I've learned so many lessons while being here. I want to say that I learned a lot of lessons from people. Both of Savannah and Jada, they are amazing women. And I learn a lot from Jada all of the time with her nonprofit and being her friend. I just learned so much from other people. And one of the lessons I had to take with me is that you don't know everything. Okay? You have to learn from other people. You have to take your time and understand that you can ask questions, you can ask for help. And that's a part of being a leader. That's one of the things that I learned being a part of the President's Leadership Academy, actually. And Dr. Dell talks about it all the time. Ask for help. You don't know everything. And it's okay to ask for help and to still feel like a leader. You aren't going to know everything and you are going to need help at times. And I think that's a huge lesson for me because I often think if I ask for help, then people are going to think I'm stupid or they're going to think I don't know what I'm doing. I have to stay in this firm president, position, or otherwise other people are going to have bad things to say about me. But I learned that's not the case and that you can learn so many things from different people. And as far as Clarion goes, I think one of the greatest lessons that I can take from here when I'm leaving and I'm, excelling in my career and I'm becoming an adult and I'm making more crucial life decisions is that you're enough. I came here and I excelled, I succeeded, I've done everything that I have ever imagined I could do on a campus. Because when I first came here, this was not what I had in my mind. I was like, I'm going to go to class and then go back to my dorm. But that wasn't the case. So I learned here that you are enough. In my journey, as far as becoming a lawyer and going out into the adult world, is going to be a lot easier knowing that you can ask questions, you can learn from people, and you are enough.
Thank you. Thank you. We have about 12 minutes left in the hour, and I do want to leave an opportunity for if anybody that is participating wants to ask a question of any of our panelists, feel free to put it in the chat. I also welcome you if I think if the space permits for you to unmute and ask the question, but either or, does anybody have any questions or any comments for the panelists? Or maybe even to share something about your own experience as a student on our campuses.
Well, I just want to, say thank you to the panelists. You all did a phenomenal job, right? And I think, you were talking about the burnout of student leaders. I think even we, as faculty, staff, and administrators, we call on the phenomenal leaders all the time because we know you'll come through. We know we can depend on you. We know you're going to do a phenomenal job. And so sometimes we have to try to pull back to not keep calling on the same person. But again, like Jada said, it's a blessing too, right? because it affords you opportunities to be in spaces that maybe some others aren't afforded to. And I would say continue to be who you are, continue to keep learning. You know, good leaders know what they don't know, and they either find people, put people around them to fill in those gaps, or they continue to learn and fulfill those gaps. So, you know, again, thank y'all for putting yourselves out there and doing a phenomenal job tonight.
Thank you, Rod. We did get a question in the chat. Jada, someone wants you to talk about SWAG, about your nonprofit. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So SWAG is Scholars with Athletic Goals. The A stands for athletic, academic, and artistic. So I make sure I can touch all young girls that are doing different things in the world. I don't want it to just be athletics because I'm a basketball player, but I wanted to shine a light on all the girls who are doing well in academics who sometimes get overlooked, and the arts. I feel like sometimes the arts are just fading away a little bit, and I want to keep them alive because I think there's beauty in that as well. But my nonprofit is dedicated on giving scholarships to young girls who are just doing well, you know, just they're doing above and beyond. And I had this passion in 7th grade, graduating 8th grade. Women's International History Month is also coming up, so I'll share this story. But during 8th grade graduation, the boys are getting awards for, you know, they have a B average, and they have a B average, and they're decent in their sport. Okay, they're decent. They're decent. And for me, I'm like working hard, balancing everything, and I have an honor roll. But I get more awards for like my character, my service, my integrity. All those things are great. But being able to balance both of those things are extremely hard. And sometimes I think as females, we get overlooked, but school doesn't come easy to me. I have to work extremely hard for it. So I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I want to create an award that shines light on a girl that's able to do both. Because if I couldn't get the award, I want to create it for somebody else. And I was one of those kids that loved saving my money. So my mom was on board. We reached out to my principal at that time, and they loved it. Like, they loved it. They embraced it. They wanted to create that opportunity that women were able to get the spotlight as well as the young boys who were able to just, you know, keep their B average. But I think I started that in going, like I said, ending my like 8th grade, and now it's going to be 10 years of me giving these scholarships. So it's like I said, back to my greatest lesson: what God has for you is going to be for you. And my nonprofit umbrella started 3 years ago when I was in Clarion. I went to church, and actually the sermon said, you should never hesitate to be a blessing to somebody else. And those words, like, I just hope to anybody, just take it in, because if you are thinking about doing something and afraid, don't ever limit yourself to go help someone else. And honestly, it has been blooming from there. The university has been in huge support. They do write-ups all the time on it, and they actually invest into it, all the way from the president to anyone else within the community. So I am forever thankful. And if this is a time to say thank you so much to the university.
Thanks so much, Jada, for sharing that message, which I think is, and you know, from a young age, you knew, right? It was a calling, right? And so very powerful and very inspiring as well, for your peers as well as the others in the room. We did get another question from Galvin, who wants to, the question is, what do you think the most important thing for non-minority educators is to know what, when going into education, that you wish that they knew and understood?
That's a good question. I think I can answer this based off of the major that I do have. Not a lot of Black people are in the political science. They're not doing political science, rarely do they ever. I'm one of the only Black females in the political science. major, and I'm also a sociology major. And I think one of the things that I wish some of my professors understood is that it's important to make sure that when you are talking about topics that correlate around politics, that correlate around race, you're not pushing stereotypes. One of the things that we're doing in my politics and poverty class is we're discussing eviction, Section 8 vouchers, and what it looks like to be in poverty in America. And every time we watch a video, it's some Black woman that's a single mother with 7 kids, and that's very stereotypical. And you don't want a bunch of students who are predominantly white thinking this is what poverty looks like, thinking that poor is synonymous with Black. That's not acceptable. That's not okay. And so sometimes, you know, you might have to take the initiative to say what you're showing or what you're depicting in class, whether, you know, you made the documentary or not, you know, can sometimes be harmful in the end, because if they don't see anyone else, it doesn't just have to be a white person, but any other race dealing with poverty in America, what does that say? That poor Black people need to live off of Section 8 and assistance and benefits so that they can live their life luxuriously. And that's not true. And so I think it's very specific to me because I deal with politics, but that's the type of stuff that I endure. Seeing issues that are so prominent in this world become sensationalized and then stamped as a stereotype. Because obviously being a woman of color and seeing a single Black mother with 7 children living out of a van and asking for government assistance probably screams a couple of stereotypes.
Absolutely. It's like they're only telling part of the story, right? And it's a disservice if they're going to show that and not give the other piece of the information or statistics around, you know, around that information that might not mirror what they're showing. Does Jada or Savannah, do you have any comments to make about that particular question about, you know, what you wish that non-minority educators would know?
I think alongside of like Nia, you're a political science major. I'm criminal justice as an undergrad and now criminology. I don't see it so much now as everything is virtual and online. So I'm just posting discussion posts and doing assignments. But as an undergrad, when we're having those type of conversations about what is happening today and what is happening in the world, I feel like some professors like to tiptoe around certain things, and doors are open for opinions in certain classrooms. And being a criminal justice major, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys can understand how those conversations may go and how sometimes they're swayed. But to me, I strongly dislike whenever a professor tiptoes around certain topics and conversations. They're afraid to use the word Black, African American. And if someone is saying something, they don't like to call it out. They're like, all right, let's move on to the next topic. But just addressing certain things, and what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong at the end of the day. But just allowing that to be known, especially as a professor, you're the head of the classroom at that time. We are all learning from you. So just having someone there to also understand, and not in a way of any microaggressions or anything like that, but just speaking on behalf of the reality of today, what is actually going on. It's criminal justice. We are here learning about law and law enforcement and stuff like that. So be knowledgeable and just understand and the topic that you're talking about to share to us, because at the end of the day, we are students.
Thank you, Savannah. Jay, do you have anything to add to that?
I just was going to say I agree with both what Nia and Savannah both mentioned. I'm 100% with Savannah with the tiptoe, and I do not like that at all. I'm just like, we're old enough, we can have the conversation, and if it's uncomfortable, it's meant to be heard. The conversation is meant to be heard. For me, in my field, I think that sometimes cultural competency is just really important. If we're going to talk about it, we have to be, able to really have those conversations and to just admit, the things you don't know. And if you say something or you address things in a tone or in a manner that's important that if I say something or if I'm willing to have the conversation with you, especially as a professor, that you are willing to hear what I have to say and not take it as a defense. I think another thing that bothers me the most that I wish more professors were aware of, and I only encountered this one time, but if I'm the only minority in your class and then I come, like I'm coming to class and you say like, are you in my class? And like, I'm the only minority that's in your class. Like, yes, I'm in your class. I don't, I don't really know how to take that question, but I think to just have a conscience before you say something, you know, go over, check your roster before you just say that out loud in front of a class, because my peers might even contact me like, oh my gosh, was that embarrassing for you? Different things in that sense. I think that's really important just to think sometimes and double check before you actually say something.
Thank you. And thank you all, and thank you for the questions. We reached the 7 o'clock hour, and I wanted to not end abruptly, but ask if there's any parting thought, Jada, Savannah, or Nia, that you'd like us to know, or that you'd like to a message for maybe those coming up after you, those 2027 graduates, which will be entering as freshmen this fall. You have any brief words of wisdom for them?
Oh, Nia, would you like to go first?
Oh no, you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I think for me, just ultimately being yourself, it gets you through many doors. Like Jada was saying before, is what is meant for you is for you. But ultimately, I would like to take a time just to thank PennWest. Now, I had a conversation with Dr. Dale not that long ago about the person I've become and the person that I'm growing into be. And I don't think I would be here in these spaces or with this many opportunities if it wasn't for PennWest, from the people I've learned from and my peers itself. So just opening that door for a thank you and an appreciation, because it's been a long ride. And from the start of my college journey to where I am now, I'm a completely different person, for the better, of course. But yeah, just the overall thank you.
Thank you, Savannah. Nia or Jada, any parting words?
I just wanted to say thank you for having me. It really is an honor to be selected for these type of panels. Earlier today, someone asked me, you're going to have a panel, you're going to be on a seminar. So these things are honestly, they say a lot about your character and who you are. So thank you again for having me. And this was really a great experience, especially since I'll be leaving Clarion. So having a senior year, fulfilling all of the things, checking off my boxes is important. So thank you again. This is really an honor. But I wanted to leave everyone with a quote that Michelle Obama said that I've heard a couple of times, and it resonates with me every so once in a while. Don't ever underestimate the importance you can have, because history has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own. Honestly, the reason why I'm here on this panel and have done so many things in Clarion is because I've had courage. And I wanted to leave you guys with that message before we logged off. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nia. Jada.
One, I love that quote. Good job, Nia, on that one, sharing that with everyone. But if I was to say my message first, my message that I would like to leave with anyone and, the freshmen coming in is use your voice. Your voice is to be heard. Your story, share your story. Doesn't matter if it's just to the person next to you or in a big room, because it holds value. And last of that is just to be proud of yourself. I feel like so many times, like I know me personally, I'm always just like looking for the next thing. I never take in the moment of just being proud to be here. And honestly, Nia, you saying that, just like being on the panel for this is just like, I didn't even think about it until you said it. Like I didn't even pat myself on the back for being here. So I just think that that's just important to be proud of yourself, to soak in those moments, because not everybody's granted that opportunity. So be proud. And it's not cocky to just be like, okay, I did that. That's amazing. You know, they wanted me here. And then just like everybody said, thank you. I'm so grateful for my opportunity at PennWest. I know that the people here has fully invested in me. They want to see me to continue to thrive. I'm thankful, like I have mentioned throughout the whole time, just that they opened opportunities for me that I didn't even know were possible. And the people here, I'm always grateful. I'm just so grateful for them. And like Savannah mentioned, Dr. Dell, we could speak about her all the time. She is an amazing human being. And I'm so thankful that I had the chance to develop the connection with the president of the university, which does not happen on the regular. But just the impact that she has had on me. And she truly is the main reason that I chose to come to this university, because I was inspired that she was a woman running a university. And that might not be my goal, but to see a woman actually doing that was amazing. So I'm very thankful for everyone here and for everyone listening. So.
Thank you so much, Nia, Jada, and Savannah, for sharing yourselves this evening and every evening as leaders amongst your peers and amongst your the folks who are, you know, your elders as well. We appreciate, I'll speak for myself, I appreciate what you continue to pour in to your peers and what you pour into the university, and what you pour into, you know, me, your advisors, and Raj, and I'm sure your professors as well. I believe as an educator outside of the classroom, my students give back to me daily in a number of ways. So I appreciate you and the things that you've done to do that. And I'd also be remiss without mentioning, you know, this being our last Black History Month official event in terms, and they've all been virtual. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Dr. Dixon, who chaired the 2023 Black History Month Committee, along with Nia, I believe, and Jada, and Savannah, and Anaya Jones from Cal, and Rogers, and I might be, Michelle Torgano, I think, was on the committee as well. And if I'm missing anybody, I apologize. I didn't make a list, but, you know, I appreciate the work that you all have done, you know, weekly to bring, you know, prior to the month, and then of putting, you know, these conversations and discussions together for us. I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank Chris LaFoya, who, you know, on the background, you know, helped us bring us all together and put us in the spotlight, not only live, but also on the university's YouTube page. So thank you all. I appreciate you all, and thank you for this discussion. I wish you all the best as you step into midterms and actually spring break first, right? So enjoy and best wishes. And I'm sure we'll be together again in other circles